On today's PMEA's Take Note podcast, we are talking about the new Arts Ed data project. And I would encourage you, if you're only listening to this one, that you might want to go and take a look at the video version, because we are going to be showing you how this new dashboard works on today's PMEA's Take Note podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. I'm Mark Despotakis. As I said, we're talking about some data and a great new tool that you will be able to use. Actually, you already can use to help in your advocacy efforts, to help in knowing more about what's happening in your school. The Pennsylvania Arts Education Data Project, we're going to dive into that today. And to help us do that is our great friend of PMEA, of music educators, of all arts educators, Dave Deitz. He's the Fine Arts Education Consultant at the Pennsylvania Department of Education. He is more than that, though, a former music educator himself, a PMEA Hall of Famer, and the list could go on and on. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we're all so excited about this data project. This has been a long time in the making. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but let's kind of baseline here for folks. What is the data project, and how did it evolve to get here?
The data project is a comprehensive review of the status and condition of music and arts education in United States public schools, and it's based on large-scale student participation data. In Pennsylvania, the schools that have to report to the Department of Ed include all of our public schools, which we call LEAs, or local education agencies, our charter schools, our career tech ed schools, and also our intermediate units. So the data that we'll be talking about today comes from those sources. They're reported to the Department of Ed, and just know that our private schools also have some very arts-rich programs, but they don't have to report the data, so we don't have that kind of data.
Yeah. So the schools are automatically reporting this. This is not something that if I'm a music teacher, I've got to make sure that I'm telling my school district to report this. This isn't included in all the data that the school's reporting, correct?
This is included in all the data that the schools report. However, given the nature of this particular Arts Ed data project and the ways in which schools report, and I'll talk a little bit about that later in our time here together, it would be better than good, for music and arts teachers to learn about the process of reporting and to help the people in your school districts who are responsible for doing data reporting. If you're in a large school district or a suburban school district, you probably have somebody who's assigned to do that reporting to the state. If you're in a small and rural school district, it might be one of your principals or assistant principals or a curriculum and instruction person who has data reporting as one of their assignments.
So let's just talk a little bit about, so before we actually show it and get into it, what are some of the things that you're going to be able to find out from the school level all the way up to the national level?
There are a lot of things that you can find out, and I think a lot of it depends on the lens that you're looking through. So if you're looking at this, let's say through a teacher or administrator lens, you might want to look at a tab that has just your own school information or your own district information. And in pulling up that tab, you can look at certain trends over time for the purpose of maybe finding gaps in student participation or staffing or course offerings. And certainly given the few years of COVID that are a part of the reporting that we have now, that you might be surprised at some of the things that have been reported. If you're responsible for advocacy or policy, you might want to do some comparisons with local districts or districts with similar demographics. Schools like that have similar size or size of art staff, or courses offered, etc. Of great importance to policymakers is data about districts where arts education availability falls below state minimum requirements, or where arts offerings to low income or school majority race and ethnicity groups are underserved. As the state consultant for fine arts, I'm currently using this information to make sure that districts are complying with their reporting of arts offerings and student participation, as well as working to assist district level data input personnel with accurate understanding of the coding systems that are used to report data to the Department of Education.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. That's a lot, and there's certainly a lot that people can access in here. So I don't want it to seem to folks that this is daunting, because it's drinking from a fire hose, I guess, in some levels. But you can access it at whatever point works for you. And so let's talk a little bit about that functionality,
Okay.
and how
Yes,
folks
and
can access it.
Mark, I like that you said it. When you first go on the site, it can be really daunting. So a lot of what you might want to think when you go on the site is just take one thing and focus on it. And I'm sure that as we go through this today, you're going to find that I'm still pretty clumsy at using certain areas of this tool, just because it is so rich in the ways that it works. But you have to really just take each one of the different tabs and spend some time playing with them to find out what you really want to find out.
All right, so let's take a look at it. Let's actually go into the site, and so we're having you share your screen a little bit. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, and let's talk about the functionality, how folks can find this data.
Well, this first screen I have is not actually our Pennsylvania screen, but it's the Arts Education Data Project that comes from the company Quadrant Arts, and they are the folks that are doing this. There are currently 31 states that are involved. We hope at some point that we can get almost all of the states involved. There are a few states that do not require arts reporting, so that's not going to be very helpful. But each one of the states has their own site, and this is the Pennsylvania site. I'll take you to the overview tab. We'll just get a little bit of what it is. You'll see this is our Pennsylvania tab, and you can see the TOC, the table of contents. You'll see a replication of all of these areas in the tabs going across the top. So you can, if you want to find something, you can click on it either here in the table of contents, or you can go up and just click on one of the tabs. And I think, Mark, you had suggested maybe that we should start with what we can do at the school level, because most of the people on this podcast will probably be teachers and maybe a few arts administrators. So looking at the school profile tab is a great place to start. You can find a lot of stuff there. And Mark is from McKeesport, and Mark and I traveled to McKeesport. It was a shorter trip for him than it was for me back in October when this was rolled out. And we talked a little bit about how long it took. This project is a combined project with Quadrant Arts, but also with CDA, the State Education Agency's Directors of Arts Education, and I represent Pennsylvania in that particular organization. And it's been going on for, the idea came about in 15 years ago. CDA wasn't involved at the very beginning, but once CDA got involved, we're into this for about, I think, 10 or 11 years. I did bring it to the Department of Education 10 years ago to try and get into this project. It only took 9 years at the Department of Education. It only took 9 years, but all of my colleagues at the department say if you live long enough, something will happen. We also had dance certification go over the fence this year, and that took 59 years. So we're still in the window of how long I've lived. But anyway, we're looking at McKeesport, and you can see here there's a lot of color coding and there's a lot of graphics. That's a part of what dashboard visualization, the word visualization, that's part of what this is expected to be. So at McKeesport, currently it's reported that in 2022, and 2022 is the last group of data. However, the 2023 data has been sent, which would be like school year 2022, 2023. We will always be 1 year behind. That's true in every state. And that has been sent. And so we're hoping that within maybe the next 2 to 3 weeks, this will be incorporated into this website. And then the 2018 data will be stored, but it will visually be dropped off of the site. But it is always stored. It doesn't go away. And we currently have 5 years worth of data. The initial dump included 5 years of data dumped into it so that you could look at some trends and some comparisons. But in music, it says that there are 4 teachers. And in 9th grade, there are about 107 students in 9th grade enrolled in music, about 76. Notice hovering over things is really a big part of this website. 94 in grade 11 and 68 in grade 12. And you can look up here and see that at McKeesport High School, there are about 1,023 students identified in 2021, 2022. So this is where you can say, this is how many are enrolled. And then you can look later and say that, that's going to be about 31 to 29% over time of all of the students in McKeesport are enrolled in a music course. And you can see the comparisons with visual art. McKeesport at the high school level does not offer theater or dance programs. We do have a category called Other. It's a really nebulous kind of category, and I will talk about that a little bit at the end, Mark. So when the people watching this, I'm hoping, will help your data personnel in your school district to report data better within the next 3 years. We are into this project for another 3 years, 3 more years of data after 2023. And we're hoping to do some crosswalks and some training with data people and with arts people so that 3 years from now, we can really focus the data so that organizations like PMEA can really use it to your advantage. We sort of know what to do with some of the data at the Department of Ed, but I would like this to be a site that's very useful to organizations like PMEA and others who advocate for quality policy in music education.
Let me just jump in and clarify one thing.
Sure.
Where those places where it shows 0, this is what we're showing is enrolled in courses. So many schools, of course, have a theater program, but it's an after-school program. So that's not going to show up in this. If they were to have a theater course, it would show up.
The data here is only for courses where students get a grade or a credit. Now, we do have some schools, and Mark, you're a marching band guy. We have some schools who do marching band after school, but kids get a grade and maybe a quarter of a credit or something like that. So in that case, the school district can report that to this site. But if there's no grade or credit, then it's not reported. So this does not report just like after school programs and things like that.
Yeah, just want to clarify that.
Okay, yes. We actually say that in the crosswalk pieces that I'm building right now. And I'm working with some music people right now on those crosswalk pieces, and we're having great conversations. You can see that in 2018, there were 5 courses offered at McKeesport High School, and by 2022, there are 8 courses offered. Well, that's kind of interesting, but maybe you would like to know what those courses are. We can find that by clicking on this button down here. And in 2018, it looks like there was no chorus offered, but when you look down here to vocal ensemble, that was offered and 82 students were enrolled. So whoever did the data input determined when they saw whatever McKeesport calls chorus class, they determined that this class is vocal ensemble. And so that's how they registered it. You notice after that, There's no vocal ensemble, but there is chorus.
Right.
So this is where right now, trying to get the data to be um, better refined and almost confined across the state, so that our schools will start reporting the data with some validity and accuracy, is something we hope to get. You can see that there was no concert band, but there was probably, oh, they didn't even have general band or marching band, which is kind of interesting because I know that you have all of those things at McKeesport. But then in 2019, it starts to be reported. One thing that you will learn on this website, you'll find between 2018, 2019, and 2020, there are spots where it looks like there's hardly anybody reported doing anything. Then all of a sudden, the numbers jump up. Well, around 2018, 2019, the Department of Ed determined that schools are to start reporting elementary data. Prior to that, they did not have to report elementary data in the arts. So everything K through 6, or in some cases K through 8, was not reported. All of a sudden now, they are expected to report them. I can tell you that one of the things I'm using this site for is to find schools who are not reporting their elementary data yet. It's been 3 years at least that they've received the memo, but they still are not reporting the data. So I want to identify the districts that aren't doing that and send them a personal little informational message saying, please start reporting your elementary data again, so that 3 years from now, we have a really quality picture of what arts offerings look like in our schools in Pennsylvania. So that's a pretty good overview, I think, of the school profile tab. In all of the tabs, you often will want to go to the filter icon first to start helping you to, get to where you want to be. So you might want to also use the district level tab if you're a teacher. And again, we'll take a moment. This sort of gives you a big overview of the state, different coloring. You can see that arts enrollment trend. Now this is like all arts, not just music, but in our state, between 2019 and 2020, we go from about 33% to 60%. Well, let's think about most of our elementary schools. The students have maybe once a week a music class and once a week a visual art class. So that information was not reported in 2019, and then in 2020 is starting to be reported. And then we have COVID. We sort of get a flatliner for a while. And it will be interesting to see in the 2022-23 data what directions we had. And we'll probably see some of these lines going down first before they go back up. I think particularly in music, because we all know that delivery of music programs, particularly performance programs, was very difficult online. And it was hard for students to do what needed to be done, and for teachers as well. These dots over here, they're pretty squashed together, so it's hard to do too much with them. But things will pop up if you hover over them. But let's go ahead and look at McKeesport District in 2022. I could look at another year if I chose to. There are 700 some LEAs listed because all the charter schools and public schools are listed. Oh, come on.
Too bad I don't live in a district that begins with A. It would have made your life easier.
It would have made this a little easier, and I have no idea. It does take a little while to spin, and as Mark and I were talking earlier, the site itself, we're pretty close. Oh no, you have to slide all over again. The site itself is a little, what I call slippery, particularly if maybe it's a little easier with a mouse, but I'm a touchpad kind of guy here, so it gets a little slippery and a little hard to sometimes get things positioned where you want. Don't be discouraged. Just keep trying. You'll get it.
And we should tell people that, they can access this at artseddata.org. They can access it on the PDE website. They can also access it on the PMEA website.
Right. Yes, PMEA. We have if you type in, why am I getting Disney?
Hey, well, it's all right. We'll go there.
I like it. So you can do the Pennsylvania. You can just type in like PA Arts and Humanities, and this site will come up, and you'll see then that we talk about the interactive dashboard. And also, as a part of the interactive dashboard, there is a complete training for each one of the tabs. It's just a few slides. If you're responsible to do some after school or in-service training with folks in your department, let's say, you can certainly use this. I built this piece as a part of the requirement to get it online. You can also see on this page, we highlight all of the organizations that provide us, quality work in the arts. So maybe we'll see that this has now, I think I clicked something and it just went crazy.
There we go.
Okay, maybe it'll spin up. Come on. And it takes you back to the beginning, but that's okay. We'll try to get it to go to district level arts. And as I spoke with Mark earlier, to facilitate this particular recording, I'm using my work laptop, which I never use. And why is that, you say? Because it took them years to get me a work laptop. And I was already used to my Mac.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so McKeesport should pop up here. And then you can get some information at the district level and not so much at the school level. So let's see, we have McKeesport. It has 4 schools. You can see some information about free and reduced lunch, school, majority, race, and ethnicity. So at McKeesport Area Senior High School, where the majority of students are no majority, that means there's not a black or a Hispanic or a white. There's everybody's represented. Nobody really comes out as a majority number there. So, but you can see when you hit that 44% of students are enrolled in the arts in 2022, and students who receive free and reduced lunch program, and I believe that McKeesport probably has a pretty healthy free and reduced lunch program. Most schools do anymore. 44% of those students are enrolled in the arts in that district. You can see the big bump up in reporting happened at McKeesport between 2018 and 2019, so they got the memo a year earlier, and then it's has sort of leveled out across the district. And then this information, there are 4 schools, 1,931 students, 13 courses, and 7 teachers in music reported in 2022. No, that does, yeah. Sometimes the hand comes up, but it doesn't really do anything in particular. So you can learn a little bit about the district just by popping up the district level tab.
Yeah, and that's all incredibly valuable information to just know about your district. So I want to move on to talk about a little bit more of how people can get involved if they look at their data and they're like, well, this doesn't make sense.
Okay, so let's just get out of the site there. Again, you can do county level comparisons. You can look at arts disciplines. I'm looking at arts disciplines a lot right now as a part of this work for getting SCED code information ready. So, right now we have 40 different courses that are identified in music. And what are those courses and how do we identify them? So there's a national system called the school courses for education data. And if you look under visual and performing arts and you look under music, you will see if I can make this a little bigger and slide it over.
Helpful.
Well,
Uh,
it's not slide. Oh, there we go.
there we go.
So you will see that under music, like one of the very first things that comes up, the codes are all 05, and the 101 is general band, and 102 is concert band. Well, you're music people, so I'm thinking about all of our schools. And when I was in middle school I went to the Derry Township, Hershey, Pennsylvania schools. Our junior high band, which was not an audition band, just anybody who was in 7th, 8th, or 9th grade at that point in time was in middle school band, but it was called the cadet band. So in the course catalog, it was the cadet band. Now imagine being a person who is trying to say, well, is cadet band general band or concert band? Based on these descriptions, which are very similar. Which one do I pick? And herein lies the problem with getting accurate data.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we are trying to do as a part of getting accurate data, there are 40 different of these descriptions, for different types of music courses. But think of all the crazy different course names that we have, even like for band. There's wind ensemble, as wind ensemble, a general band or a concert band. And if you're a person who spends your entire day sitting in a cubicle inputting data to send to the Department of Ed, you are probably clueless as to which is which, and you just make a decision. This is where music and arts people can get involved by finding out who are those data people and helping with crosswalks and then presenting those crosswalks. So let's take a look. I'm just working on this right now, so this is a work in progress. I will have some meetings with music people tomorrow and Friday to look at what we're talking as a crosswalk document. And this is pretty easy, music early childhood education. I noted in looking on that arts disciplines tab that this was mostly used to describe K5 through 8 courses, which I thought was interesting. Why would you have 8th graders described in music early childhood education? But a lot of our charter schools consider what they do K through 8 to be early childhood. So that's probably why they're defining that. So we want to help people say, use only if a course exists for students younger than pre-K. Don't use this for 8th graders. So that's where we're talking about crosswalks. We want to try and give some guidance as to how to use each one of these SCED code descriptions. It goes up through K8, and I've noted here like how many schools reported that they have music in grade 6, 651. Well, there are more than that, but some of them just identified it as general music.
Right.
And because general music is a choice. So you'll see that general music, there's 154 schools that use that. I noted that it was heavily used in K through 8. I think because we have general music, general art, general theater, and general dance, I'm going to try and drive these courses at the high school level that schools use for like a graduation requirement. Often it's offered in 9th grade. I think I'm going to try to write the descriptions so that we drive that graduation requirement to the general music or the general art or general theater or general dance. That way PMEA can learn what schools have a music requirement for graduation just by using the SART-SED data tool. So here you'll see we have 728 have general band and 351 have concert band, which pretty much means that we have about 1,071 schools that are offering some sort of a band program in their school. Now, I'm thinking that maybe we could learn more about the difference between non-auditioned and auditioned. maybe we could drive the data in that way over the next 3 years, just by asking that to be a separate requirement. So 96 schools are reporting marching band where students get credit. So as you can see, we have 40 of these different SCED codes, and I'm working with people in music, art, theater, and dance right now to try and get some language that helps to clarify this language that was created by somebody who was not very specific, or a group of people who I think were not very specific. And we would like our stuff to be a little bit more specific. It will help us to know more about what our arts offerings are in the state of Pennsylvania.
So what'll happen then is once you come up with this crosswalk document, we will certainly help to put that out there. And then we would ask for music educators to give them a little bit of homework to say, okay, go look at this crosswalk document, define where all of your courses fit in here, and then go to the data people in your district and say, here, this is where we should be reporting. And then that will eventually upload in future data dumps, and we will get a much richer and more valid sense of this data that will help in all of those goals we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. I think the idea of once we create the crosswalk from what's in the SCED code to where we think we would like to see certain kinds of data fall, then it would become the responsibility of the teachers to say, okay, we have this vocal ensemble. Let's say we have an octet that is very much into this, doing these, what do I want to say, the very contemporary harmony sounds and things like that. You want to call that contemporary vocal ensemble, but you might call it a name like the McKeesport. What's McKeesport's? Gosh, I've forgotten the word here, but your icon,
the Tigers.
The Tigers. So you might call that group the Singing Tigers. Well, somebody sees that in a course selection book, Singing Tigers. Well, what are they? Are they
Right.
chorus? Are they a vocal ensemble? And you would want them to be a contemporary vocal ensemble,
Okay, so that's a really good look at the data project, but I think, you can go down a rabbit hole and spend a lot of time on there, because I think both of us on the screen right now have done that, probably you more than me, but I've certainly gone down the rabbit hole a few times on it. So people are free to do that. But let's talk about the future of this. What's next? What's the future of the data project?
Well, as I said earlier, we still have 3 more years of data that will be entered into the project, and always the data visualization will only show 5 years worth, but the data that we sent is warehoused. After that point in time, it will be another financial commitment on the part of the Department of Education if they want to continue to stay in the data project, and so that's something I can't guess down the road at this point. For the time being, in the next 6 weeks, I need to finish these crosswalks. And in early March, I will be presenting at the Data Summit, which is interestingly enough, it's a conference where data input personnel from schools from across the state come in, and they will learn about, how to look at these crosswalks and use them. And so I'm sure that once we present it at that conference, they'll start looking at it, and they'll start sharing with their friends in other schools. I'm sure I'll spend some time presenting on all of this at the PMEA conference. I've already done a little bit of this with the art ed folk, and I will be doing some with theater and dance ed as well. We need to train those data personnel and get those the arts people to work with the people in your own school districts to help them translate those unique kinds of descriptions in your course outlines and course booklets. We hope to get the SCED code input to be better focused so that the organizations like music ed, and art ed, and dance and theater ed can use the information to better support our arts constituencies, because your organizations have better outreach and access to the people who are delivering arts programs in our schools than we do at the Department of Ed. So I personally, in the last 12 years, have heavily depended on your organizations to get the word out. And so we want to make sure we're doing the best job for you.
Well, and I will say, over the past 12 years of you in this role, we have heavily depended on you for so many things. We could not do so much of what we do without your wonderful guidance and support at the department. So they're very lucky to have you there, and we're very lucky to have you as well. So let me say this. Here's what happens next for folks. Here's your homework. Go take a look at the websites that we've talked about. Go in there and look around and look at your school and look at that information. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Then stay tuned, because once Dave works through these crosswalk documents, we really want to push that out, and that's where the bulk of your homework starts, right? Let's start defining this a little bit better, because the better that data is, the better it not only is for you at that school level, but it is for all of us in our collective work. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yes, because the data is now public information,
right? And
you want this data to be your friend.
Yes.
So you need to take a look at it and see, when you look at your even at your school level, starting at your school level, you can start to look at that and say, what relationship do I personally have to some of this data? And how can I make sure that this data is valuable for our school, our district, and for our music program?
Well, again, thank you for all your work on this. We're going to be hearing from you more about it, I'm sure, certainly as the crosswalk document comes. But thanks for walking us through it today.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us on this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, the Grove City College Department of Music. We'll see you next time.